started, I just want to talk to you about what's all going on.
Okay.
So, what do you all know in your personal experience and past history about what you think is going on?
Well, I'm having a lot of pain and kind of down in my right butt. My doctor said I have something called fibromyalgia. I'm not really sure what that is, but I kind of have pain in certain areas sometimes. And it's kind of frustrating.
Okay. So, what kind of pain do you have?
It's kind of like in my butt, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like just in one area, but sometimes it goes down a little farther down, kind of to makes it just a bigger area.
Okay.
Down my butt.
So, do you know exactly like what pain is, or do you just know that when you have a feeling, like that's just what you think pain is?
I mean, I know there's like some kinds of like it could be throbbing or it could be burning, but
Okay. So, a little bit of background about what happens when you feel that is, say you were going to touch a hot stove or anything hot. You pull away right away, right?
right.
So, what kind of happens is you have these nerves in your system which send a signal from your hand all the way up to your brain telling you to pull your hand away. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going on is where you're feeling your pain currently, you have these nerves that are going up and telling you that something's going on. They're a little irritated, and so they're telling you to let your brain know that something's not right with your system.
Oh, okay. So the fibromyalgia is kind of like a burning inside of my hip.
I mean, a little bit. How long have you had this?
I think it's been a while now, probably maybe like a year.
Okay. So we have these stages called acute and chronic. Acute is when you have a short-term injury that may happen. So, if you gradually, like, say, stub your toe, the pain gradually goes away, right?
Right.
But with you, if you had an injury, did you have an injury, like, at work when you were picking something up or anything like that?
Nothing that I can really remember that's specific.
Okay, so sometimes you have an injury and sometimes you don't. But an example, just to differentiate between acute and chronic, is when you first stubbed your toe, I like to make a reference to an alarm system. So that alarm system comes off and it turns on. And then gradually over time, since you're still feeling maybe a little throbbing, that alarm system will shut off. But in your case scenario, when you have chronic pain, that alarm system actually will continue to stay on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it just the alarm keeps going off in there and it keeps the pain going.
Yep, keeps telling your brain that there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to show you, this is kind of an example of what we call the phases of acute and chronic.
Okay.
So when you have acute pain, that alarm system shoots up and then it'll gradually over time, it'll eventually diminish and you'll completely forget that you stubbed your toe.
Mm-hmm.
Versus chronic, that alarm system's going to keep on and it's going to continue to tell your brain that something's going on.
Okay.
So an analogy that we were told to kind of express this is we call this sensitivity. So that means that your alarm system is on and it just takes something very minor and it will trigger your brain that something's happening immediately. And we were told in class about this guy that was in a jungle and he went through a bush and he felt something on his leg, but he wasn't exactly sure what it was, and he just continued on hunting. Well, the next day he ended up in the ER because he was actually bit by a snake. But he didn't really notice it at the time.
How did he not notice?
Because he was so focused on going hunting that he just thought it was a twig that hit him in the leg.
Oh, interesting. So it's kind of like in his brain because he was focused on hunting.
Yep. So there were signals that actually turned his alarm system completely off. So he was more focused on going hunting, and he kind of just ignored the pain that was going on.
Okay.
But then, when he was at home and he was in his garden, all it took was he went by a bush, and he felt that exact same trigger from that, like, say, like a needle or a twig or something like that went by his leg, and it completely shot him through the roof because he thought that he was going to get bit again and be in that much pain.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have what's called increased sensitivity. So he's very sensitive to anything that might brush by his leg
It feels like
because he thinks it's a snake.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense.
So from that, we're going to work on just some moderate, slow exercises to help you with your range of motion and to help kind of turn that alarm system off. And together, we're going to do this as a partnership because we have been experiencing this for a little while now, that we're going to work together through this. So don't feel that you're going to be on your own or anything like that. We're going to help you and just do it slowly and gradually increase your range of motion, so how far you can move, so you can get home and to do activities that you do around the house without worrying about what's all going on or fear of moving. And then even at work, you will be able to, enjoy your work a little bit more without worrying that you're going to have this pain that you're feeling currently.
Okay, yeah, because I usually am kind of hesitant, especially with bending forward. It kind of scares me.
Yep, and we'll work through that together. So we can start with just some simple range of motion, which is just simple movements of bending a little bit forward. And what we're going to go by is we're going to go by a stoplight.
Okay.
So you know the basics of a stoplight. Obviously, go, slow down at yellow, and then obviously stop.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're green, we're going to start with just some range of motion. I'll show you a few exercises, so we'll go through that together. You're not going to feel any pain. You might feel a little bit of irritation, but it shouldn't be anything too crazy.
Okay.
And then we're going to work up to yellow. So you might feel a little bit of irritation, but we want to push you just a little bit, but not too far.
So I am supposed to feel pain?
Just a little bit. Minor, but able to push through it. And then red is as soon as you feel your back start tensing up when we're going through these exercises, or if you feel what we call muscle guarding, which is preventing you from going into that range of motion or exercise that we're doing, that's when you want to come back a little bit and not go as far into that stretch.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so let's get started.